Into the papers now, see what the headlines are. I have with me in the studio to make sense of the headlines in Nigeria, journalist Dare Odufowokon and public affairs analyst Tunji Abdulhamid. Good morning, gentlemen. Nice to see you both.
Good morning.
Great. Let's begin with the Daily Times. Daily Times is where we start from. $9 billion judgment debt. Buhari directs EFCC, NIA, IGP to probe contracts. And says federal government senses foul play, vested interests colluded with conspirators. The Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, is saying that a P&ID claim that he spent $40 million on botched contract not correct. Emefiele, that's the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, is saying that. All right, from there, let's go to the blueprint. The blueprint is where we get into now. US and $9.6 billion UK judgment. $9 billion UK judgment. CBN hasn't record of gas project. Emefiele is saying that that's the CBN governor. Buhari orders probe by EFCC and IGP as the Inspector General of Police. Damages over compensation unjustifiable. The federal government is saying this and says Jonathan government colluded with foreigners. Okay, that's what we have there. Then the News Direct is where we go next now. The News Direct says the NNPC Total to grow production reserves as Total targets 300 MMSF gas output growth and visits Silver and Kerry. That's the Minister of State for Petroleum as well as the GMD. TET Fund begins impact assessment of 20 years projects. Nigeria will not relinquish assets in $9 billion gas project dispute. Lai Mohammed is giving insight into all of this. The controversy still lingers on. Now, the Daily Trust is where we go next now. As customs continues joint security exercise, economic activities grounded in many border communities. All right, economic activities grounded in many border communities across the country. All right, gentlemen, there is this story that has been making the rounds, which has to do with the United States Embassy in Nigeria. Anyway, let's give a background to this issue first before we come to discuss this. Now, the United States Embassy in Nigeria says, effective from Thursday, the Nigerians applying for tourism, student and business visas will not only pay the 59,200 naira fee, but will have to pay an extra $110, that's about 40,700 naira, after the visa has been issued to them, bringing the total cost to 99,900. Now, however, applicants who are denied visas will not need to pay the extra 40,700. Gentlemen, what do you make of this new policy? Daria, I'd like to start with you on this. It is said to be reciprocity done in retaliation.
It's a fallout of the decision of the American government to invoke what it called its reciprocity clause, which, as explained, simply means that where a country, in this case Nigeria now, make American citizens pay more for visa than Nigerians pay for the American visa. After negotiation with the government and there is no headway, the clause can be invoked to ensure that Nigerians also pay the balance. What we have here is the Americans seeking to come to Nigeria for business, for leisure, for tourism, pay more than we pay the American government to get their own visa. And a lot of, this has been done for like 2 years, negotiations by the American government with Nigeria, its Nigerian counterpart, trying to bring down what they pay. But after all said and done, that didn't happen. So the reciprocity clause is now invoked to ensure that there's a clause in the American Constitution that says America as a country must treat the nationals of every other country the way that country treats Americans.
Okay.
And that is what is leading to this. In all facets of life, they are very strict about that clause. That the way you do to us,
we'll do the same thing to you. Tunji, the point there is there are more Nigerians waiting at the embassies to go to the US than Americans waiting at the embassy to come to Nigeria. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if you look at this deeply, did you think that the Nigerian government thought deeply about this, who this is going to hurt more?
You know, let me see it from this angle. I see the action of the USA as a government who intend to protect its citizens, who believe that the interest of its citizens must be protected and guarded at all times. So I'm not sure they are just interested in the money. They just want to force Nigeria to budge to their request. So I think this is what a good government does. You know, a government who wants to ensure that the interest of its citizens is protected should go a long way to take steps to guarantee that right and protection. You know, the issue has been lingering on. They've been asking Nigerians to budge by reducing the fee. Nigeria is not doing that.
What is at the core of this? Is it a way of raising money or raising taxes or generating revenue? What is there in the... Because the point there is that when you look at the relations or the relationship between Nigeria and America, the friendship has been on for a long period of time. There are some specific countries that you give some kind of concessions to. Doesn't America fall in the category that Nigeria should give some level of concession to, seeing that a lot of Nigerians go to the United States?
I think they should fall within the category of those that should be given a concession. We have gone a long way. We have a good relationship in a way. So if they are asking that their interest of their citizens should be protected by reducing the fee, I think Nigeria should look into it and then see what is reasonable. Let's look at the cost of processing the visa and see whether or not whatever they are asking for will not affect their administrative fee.
All right. I don't agree with that. Okay. I'll tell you why. Nigerians seeking to go to America are more, yes, than Americans seeking to come. But let us look at the importance of the visits. Americans seeking to come to Nigeria are coming for business. Majority of the Nigerians applying for visas to go are going on tourism and leisure. And largely non-immigrant visas request from Nigeria is leisure and tourism. Less number of those people seek to do business. So America tends to benefit more from its few visits to Nigeria than we are benefiting from the numerous visits. So, and this is not happening for the first time. It happened between America and Russia. At the end of the day, both countries had to sit down. America was asking, or is asking us, to reduce our own fee to, in their own opinion, make it commensurate with what they charge. But if you look at the number of people who are paying, Nigerians paying are more. So, and what we get from going there is not commensurate with what they get.
Yeah, but the point there is that, Dario, you would also agree that the issue there is Nigeria knows from history and by the standards and by the ethics that the moment that this amount of money is jacked up, America is going to reciprocate.
No, America didn't just do it. They negotiated.
Exactly.
Nigeria expected negotiation. See, we have what America is doing for its own people. Good. I think we may probably, this has not been said, but probably I see a situation whereby some people within the Nigerian government too have seen this as also a way of discouraging brain drain and wastages. If the non-immigrant visas application fee goes up and less Nigerians apply to go and spend huge resources in America for
you think that would deter Nigerians?
If it doesn't, seriously, it will deter. It's just a matter of time. It will deter. If you have to pay so much right from the point of application, mark it. That's not just what will go up. Trust America to ensure that is either they force you to, accede to their request, like he said, or they apply all rules that will make you see that we are not pleased.
Yeah, but Dario, you said earlier,
Russia, and at the end of the day, the two countries sat down.
Very good. I agree with you, Dario. You said earlier on that the number of Americans coming to Nigeria are more coming to do
Business
more.
Yes.
Why don't we wait to tax the businesses they come, giving them, in fact, a lot of Nigerians expect that at this point, America can fall in the category of countries that should have a free visa to Nigeria because you know they're coming for business. So you wait for them to invest in Nigeria and then you tax them.
Exactly.
Tunji, what do you think?
Exactly, I want to agree with you. It makes more sense. You know, the Nigerians going to America, like you said, they are not going there. Most of them are not going there for business. They are going there for tourism or even
education,
to attempt to escape from the country. So it won't add any benefit to in quote to the Americans. The American coming to Nigeria, Nigeria will get more benefit from them. They will come here, invest, and do other business with us. From there, our economy can even improve. So I think even the cost of the high rate of our application fee will not, in my own opinion, may not and will not deter Nigerians.
It's 99,000. Nigerians will pay
the fee to
10
me,
times
even
over.
Look at our economy now. What is on ground now, even before the increment, is high. Nigerians are still paying it. They will go a long way to any length to be able to go out of this country the way it is now. Most people are desperate.
All right. But Dare, do you think that Nigeria has to be a little more strategic? Frankly, if we have to get into that now. Yeah. Now, recently, South Africa has given Ghana a status of free visa. As long as you are visa on arrival. Sorry, yeah. If you're coming into South Africa and you are Ghanaian, you just come in, and then it is a way of giving them encouragement to come. Do you think Nigeria has to be a little more strategic in approaches to some of these countries and laws?
I think so. And at the same time, I believe those behind these decisions too must have, thought this through. I don't think it's a policy that somebody will sit down somewhere and do just for the sake of being seen to be doing something. There is more to this than we can just reduce to a diplomatic relationship.
Okay.
The issue of business, the issue of the movement between the two countries, the issue of the volume of trade, all this will have been taken into consideration. If Americans want to come to Nigeria, if an American has any reason to come to Nigeria, whatever amount you are charging, he will pay. He knows what he's coming here to do. Just like you said, because Nigerians just want to escape from this country. So by the time you place these two reasons side by side, you begin to find some sense in the position of even the Nigerian government. Okay, let us come to the same table. Don't just sit down and ask me to reduce my own. It's not as if what you are charging to is convenient. America told Russia, reduce your fee. Russia said, no, we can both reduce what we're charging now. Right. Before we increased ours, you were charging more. Russia has had to increase more than, and at the end of the day, and one of the greatest fallout of that is that between America and Russia now, they charge nothing less than 3 years visa. They issue nothing less than 3 years. Before it was all those short term.
Right.
We could benefit from these diplomatic.
So ultimately there should be some level of negotiation and engagement. Okay, thank you very much, Dario Odufor, for your insight into this, and Tunji Abdulmalid, thank you very much. Abdulmalid, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Let's take a look at the stories making the headlines. We're going to be starting with before we start with the headlines, I have with me in the studio a journalist, Dario Odufor, who is to my far left, and I also have with me public affairs analyst Tunji Abdulmalid. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. So, gentlemen, let's look at the dailies for this morning, Wednesday, August 28th. And we'll start with The Guardian, which says that businesses, travelers suffer over tighter border watch. And under it, we have restriction separates grooms, brides, perishable items rot away, rice prices rises, exercise not border closure, says customs and immigrants with valid documents move freely. And that's on The Guardian newspaper. Let's move on to The Nation newspaper now, where we have on the top, we have House probes and bodies purchase of 820 buses. We also have that on page 8 of The Nation newspaper. We have police quiz Koza Pastor Fatoimbo, which is on page 5 of The Nation newspaper. We also have Nigerians to pay more for the U.S. visa. Odubu is NDDC chairman designate, and NECO releases May-June exam results. And we have Nigeria, which is the major headline. Nigeria launches battle against $9.6 billion UK verdict. Minister, it will inflict grave economic injury on Nigerians, and the federal government is saying it will probe the contract. Now, moving on to the next newspaper headline, which is the Vanguard. What is making the top headline there is failed gas project suffering ahead if Nigeria pays 9 billion fine, and says the finance minister. Also, as the federal government orders a probe of multi-million gas project failure, award to P&ID clearly unreasonable, manifestly excessive, says Lai Mohammed. Also, another sub-headline says there is no record of P&ID in Nigeria, says the CBN governor Emefiele. And project deliberately designed to fail from inception, says the Attorney General of the Federation, Malami. Now, looking at the headlines, some other headlines we're going to be looking at is the Daily Times, which says, major headline there says, $9 billion judgment debt. Buhari directs EFCC, NIA, IGP to probe contract. Says FG senses foul play. Vested interests colluded with conspirators, says Lai Mohammed. P&ID claim that it spent $40 million on botched contract. Not correct, says the CBN governor, Emefiele. Now, gentlemen, the Daily Trust, is dealing with the story where you see the U.S. announces new visa for Nigeria. Looking at how the Guardian describes that, it says that it's payback time for Nigeria as U.S. raises visa fee. Do you think this is right to say it's payback time for the Nigerians?
Yeah, it's not just the Guardian that said that. America itself said it. It's the reciprocity clause. It simply means we are reciprocating what you have done to us. So it's payback time. It's just a balance. It's mere language. If the reason given for the new fee, which of course is payable after you have been issued a visa, the reason is that we asked Nigerian government to bring down their own fee, what Americans have to pay, and you have refused. We are now saying, okay, we'll ensure that your own nationals too pay the difference. Once we issue you a visa, you will pay some extra money. So it's actually a diplomatic...
So you think it's fair?
We are not talking about fairness here. This is international relations.
Okay.
Two countries. Each country feels the need to protect its own citizens. America is of the opinion that why should our own people pay more to come to your country when you pay much less to come to our own? Please, let's put this thing at par. And Nigeria feels no. For some reasons, you should pay more. These are our own reasons. Don't forget, there have been negotiations between the two countries before this development. Both sides gave their reasons, and America said, okay, don't worry. Once we give your own people visa, they must pay that difference between what we charge and what you charge. So it's obviously payback. There is no other name to call it.
Do you agree? Because if you look at President Trump recently, has always, propagated that message, Africa first. Do you think it's also in line with that America first, sorry, it's also in line with that message that President Donald Trump wants to show to the world that this is just one of the things I'm going to be doing for America to grow as a country?
Yeah, I think is that because unlike in Nigeria, the Americans, they follow their citizens more than the way compared to the way our government reacts when it comes to Nigerian issue. These are the things Nigerian government should be doing to ensure that their citizens are protected. The issue of visa, this is what we call negotiation skill. You are trying to get something from somebody, and you are imposing your own condition on him as well. You have made all efforts to make him see the reason why he should budge. You now realize that I also have a situation whereby I can also use to get what I want from him. So what we'll be looking at here now is, would there be advantage for Nigerians in this, if they refuse, they are not applying for this visa? would the US suffer more if they will retain the current visa fee for the US citizens? I think that is the situation the government will be looking at now. But like I said, they did not hide it. They said it's a reciprocity policy. They want to tit for tit, and they are tat for tat, or whatever. What do me, I do you. Tackle me, I tackle you.
God no go vex, if I would say that. But Dari, looking at how Nigerians troop to the embassy to collect the visa, and of course, everybody wants to travel and leave Nigeria the way it is, because some places are blaming the government, leadership, some places are blaming the economy, the fact that we've not seen so much growth in time past. How do you think this will impact, the morale of Nigerians that, want to travel out to see that they make impact somewhere else?
Sincerely, maybe I'm the wrong person to ask this question. Because first, I'll quickly tell you, everybody wants to travel. I say no. Some people want to travel. Maybe most people want to travel, but there are still some of us who feels there's no need rushing to another man's country, and I can stay in mine. Though that number may be quite few, especially among the youth.
Persons.
But talking about morale, I think for me, this development is also an opportunity to review our migration situation, the rate at which people leave the country. We keep talking about brain drain and all that. These are areas we can begin to look at. If Nigerians are being asked to pay more for visa, for other things that will make them leave their country and go elsewhere, and Nigerians are still paying, then something is wrong with our system. If after all these increments, you still find out that the number of Nigerians willing to pay is not reducing, then the government should do more than just mouth some of the policies they've been propagating. They should look inward and realize that how can we make this country more habitable? How can we make Nigeria itself appealing to its own people? Because if you
not
have
just
to
people
pay,
outside.
I mean, if America says, look, we are increasing the fee, we should be able to see a reduction in the desire of our people to cough out this money. Mind you, the first fee of about 50-something thousand naira is non-refundable. If you apply 10 times in a year and you are denied, you are going to pay 50-something thousand naira 10 times, that's $500,000, and you forfeit that. And I tell you, Nigerians are paying. Now you have to pay extra 40,000 naira or so, and yet you still find people willing to pay. Then something is wrong with us.
But Abdulhamid, do you see this pact being injurious on Nigeria as a country? Do you think it would have any adverse effect on our relations with the US?
I'm not sure that will have any effect on our relation with the US. In the sense that, in fact, I'm just jokingly, I think the government won't be happy that they are imposing a higher fee on Nigerians.
Okay, because you think that
they want to discourage Nigerians from traveling abroad, and they will also think that if a higher fee is being imposed, they may likely say that they are not going again. So I don't see it as it may not cause a serious issue, but it's an issue that will have to be settled diplomatically. They have to discuss, and like I said, the US is just trying to force Nigeria to dance to their own tune. And the Nigeria will also stand its ground that, look, we are also sovereign country. We have the right to determine whatever we want and what we think is good for us. So in that area, too, Nigeria may be saying, how can you use your own yardstick to determine our own policy or whatever we charge as our own fee? What you charge as your own fee is good for you. This is what is good for us. If it's not good for our citizens, let them come. But Nigerians, like you said, we have, that is not in doubt, that we have situations in the country. The security is there, the economy is there. So many people, the economy is not even helping people. Most people are not employed. Most people are not engaged. And most people try to travel. Most of them don't even have any work. Most of them don't even have anywhere specifically they are going to, what they are going to do in that area they are going to. They just want to leave the country, thinking when they get there, they will be picking money on the street. It's not like that. But, they believe that there's an enabling environment in that area. If you can work, you'll be able to hit. That's not the case in Nigeria. Sometimes you even go to work, you don't eat. So I think most people are trying to, and that's why I said, even if you put it millions of naira, to. And that's why I said, even if you put it millions of naira, Nigerian will still
because we're
apply for
resilient
visa.
people.
But I expect Nigerian government also.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, some persons say because Nigerians are resilient.
The Nigerian spirit is adventurous. Because if you are leaving your own country for another country on a tourism visa that stipulates when you have to leave that country and you have invested your entire life saving on that trip.
Just 2 week trip.
And you are given 3 months to stay, within which you either make a future for yourself in that country or you are bundled back home. I don't call
the
that
truth is that
resilience.
they may be given 6 months or 1 month or 1 year or whatever. Some of them, when they get this visa, they don't intend to come back as promised.
They
want to see a situation whereby they will stay back.
Hopefully, it becomes a greener pasture for them.
For many of them, they become fugitives, running from pillar to post.
I see lawyers who are qualifying and going abroad
and they go there and start
become
hiding.
a driver and they come that and they you know, it's pathetic.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Dari Odufor, a journalist, thank you so much for joining us on the program. And Tunji Abdulhamid, thank you so much for joining us. A public affairs analyst, thank you so much for joining us.
Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines in Nigeria are today. Really interesting headlines, if you ask me. Now, we have in the studio journalist Dari Odufor and public affairs analyst Tunji Abdulhamid. It's nice to have you join me this morning. Thank you very much. All right, let's start with the Guardian newspaper this morning. Guardian says businesses, travelers suffer over tighter border watch. And restriction separates grooms and brides. You have that as a multiple rider there. Perishable items rot away and price rises. And exercise not border closure, says customs. And immigrants will, with valid documents, move freely. Okay, you find this on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Now let's move to The Nation. The Nation newspaper is next now and says Nigeria launches battle against a $9.6 billion UK verdict. Minister, it will inflict grave economic injury on Nigerians, and federal government probes contract. All right, that has been on the front burner since a few days that Nigeria lost that case in the court. Now, from The Nation, let's go to the Vanguard now. Failed gas project suffering ahead if Nigeria pays $9 billion fine. Finance Minister is saying this and has some writers there to explain more what that means. As federal government orders probe of multi-million gas project failure. An award to P&ID clearly unreasonable, manifestly excessive. Lai Mohammed is saying that that's the Minister of Information. And there's no record of P&ID in Nigeria. The CBN Governor correct-Emefiele is revealing that. And projects deliberately designed to fail from inception, as the AGF Malami is saying that that's the Attorney General of the Federation. From the Vanguard, let's go now to the Daily Times. Daily Times is still on the same issue, talking about the $9 billion judgment debt. Buhari directs EFCC, NIA, IGP to probe contract. Says federal government senses foul play somewhere. And vested interests colluded with conspirators. The Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, is saying this. And P&ID claimed that it spent $40 million on botched contract, not correct. The CBN governor is revealing this to Nigerians and to the world. Now, from the Daily Times, let's go now to the Blueprint newspaper now. And it's talking same thing about the $9.6 billion UK judgment. It said that CBN hasn't record of gas project. correct-Emefiele is revealing this, and Buhari orders probe by EFCC and IGP. Damages over compensation unjustifiable. Federal government is saying that, and says Jonathan government colluded with foreigners. All right, from the Blueprint, let's go to News Direct. News Direct is saying that NNPC Total to grow production reserves. And besides that, it talks about the TET fund begins impact assessment of 20 years projects. And Nigeria will not relinquish assets in $9 billion gas project dispute. That's the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, is saying that. Okay. All right, the last paper this morning is Daily Trust, and it says, as customs continues joint security exercise, economic activities grounded in many border communities. Okay, you find all that on the front page of the Daily Trust. Now, gentlemen, let's talk about this issue that has covered most of the headlines this morning, from The Nation to The Vanguard to Daily Times, Blueprint, and all of that. They talk about the $9 billion judgment against Nigeria. Now, we see a lot of activity in government where Nigeria is saying, no, we'll look into it and all of that. But some analysts have said that this is what should have been done in the first place, even before the judgment. What do you think, Dari? Let me start with you before I go to Tunji.
I agree with you. Most of the things we are hearing that our government is doing now, I would say, are belated. I learned that this issue was in court, according to the things we read. It even went on to an appeal. The government had to appeal a particular judgment before we found ourselves here. This incident started during the regime of the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua. Former President Goodluck Jonathan was the vice president in that regime.
In that government.
He became acting president for some months. Eventually took over. And cumulatively was in office for 6 years as president. This issue was there. So if anybody is now saying his government colluded with foreigners, I would simply agree. Because he had the opportunity to nail this before it became as terrible as it turned out. 6 years after the contract was initiated and it didn't take off, you inherited such a situation, sat on it for 6 years, only to, on the eve of your departure, minuted to your successor to carry out a particular compensation, arrived at
to settle out of court.
To settle out of court. I mean, if it took you 6 years to arrive at settlement out of court, how would you expect that your successor will do the same thing in a matter of months? While I blame the Jonathan administration for that, I am also not at ease with the Buhari administration. Having inherited that problem, I want to believe that if they had also been very proactive about solving the problem, it won't lead to this. Meaning they've also been on this issue for 4 years. What are the issues?
Right.
If truly the contract was not favorable,
all right,
and they discovered that, what efforts were made, not just to sit down and watch that company continue to get judgments against us,
right,
but to ensure that our own interest as a country is protected.
All right, Tunji, let me come to you on this. You recall that many years ago, we lost the Bakassi Peninsula case as well, when it comes to how the issue was approached. Is this about how Nigeria approaches issues, or there's something technically wrong with something somewhere with, you know, that there's been talk about collusion with foreign partners, there's been talk about issues like that. But what is wrong here when we have some of the best lawyers, some of the best solicitors, some of the best diplomats, exactly, anywhere in the world or on the African continent?
You know, let me start from the issue of whether this is the way we have been. Nigeria, we are always not proactive. We are always reactionary. We wait till issue or problem arises before we start.
And we might be paying the price right now.
In fact, we are even doing the same thing now. We are having the issue in our hand. Instead of us looking, I agree that people who may have been involved in 1 billion or the other in that transaction should have to be punished and then investigated or whatever. That should not be our major concern now. Our immediate concern now should be, how do we mitigate this the issue? How do we ensure that this award is not enforced? These are the steps I expect the government to be looking at and talking about, not issue of we are going to punish them, we are going to probe them. Yes, we must probe them. Yes, but that should not be the immediate. So we are always not proactive. We are always reactionary. So you know the issue. I'm a lawyer. Sometimes when people enter into an agreement, especially in this country, from the past, it may be an allegation. I may not have enough evidence to portray that. But I think they do it party things.
And not look at the details. The details of some clauses.
Even when picking lawyers that will protect the country, they don't look at the lawyers who are knowledgeable in this area, who knows about this thing. But people they pick are the allies, the people who are close to them, people who maybe politically
affiliated.
Whether he is aware, he knows much about that area or not, they will not bother. In fact, I'm surprised. The other part of the general is saying that the federal government is not a Ministry of Justice. We're not aware about the agreement. How can we enter into such kind of agreement and the Minister of Justice will not be aware of it?
But at that time, the Minister of Justice at that time was Michael Aundaka.
Whoever was the Minister of Justice should be involved in this kind of a transaction.
All right, Dari, we understand the P&ID company is looking at the possibility of looking at what Nigerian assets anywhere in the world to seize. What implications would this have on Nigeria now?
Embarrassment. It will be a huge embarrassment if a corporate entity, a company, as it were, will seize assets of a nation, a country. We are also a sovereign entity with a place of pride in the Committee of Nations. And the company in question will be convenient to call it a British company, an American company. It's going to be the company of a nation situated or owned by nationals of a particular country. And I think a lot of diplomacy will come to play eventually, because this is not going to be just Nigeria versus P&ID. It's going to be Nigeria versus a country eventually. Nigeria versus some organizations, international organizations eventually. But as a country, our nonchalance, it is high time we begin to take a look at what we even think of ourselves. And Americans say, God bless Nigeria. What do we say? I mean, what do we say? What do we think? When Americans think America first, what do we think?
When they talk about the American dream.
When they talk about the American dream, is it the Nigerian trance or Nigerian slumber? Is it when we address all these issues that we can begin to really put Nigeria in our hearts, in our dealings, where it ought to be. Until we do that, we will continue to fall into shameful circumstances.
All right, Tunji, when it comes to solutions to this, beyond the issue of the P&ID and Nigeria, what do you think government-to-government diplomacy, maybe president to prime minister, what do you think should be going on at that level?
This is not a country against a country. It's an individual. It's a company
but
against a company.
You recall that when a South African company, a telecom company, had an issue, the president of the country was trying to, interface and engage with the Nigerian president, even though it was a company. It was a private company.
In other words, you are saying we can also engage the government of that country, of the country where the company is, to see how it comes. Yeah, it's a possibility. Yeah. It's a possibility. But I want to also draw an attention here that this should be is a warning to the government that, look, when you sign an agreement, it must be respected. Right. We have that attitude in this country whereby the government will just ignore agreement for no cause reason. I believe if this company were to be a Nigerian company, nothing will happen, and there won't be any.
All right. So much lessons to learn for both country, companies, and even citizens. Thank you very much, Tunji Abdul Hamid. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And Dario Defowokon, thank you very much as well.
It's a pleasure.
Right.